I'm Kenzie. I am from Seattle and I work for Expedia Group.
All right, Kenzie, do you screen for culture fit or culture risk?
That's a really good question. Um, I guess I would say a little bit of both, but for me, when I ask a question, I'm looking for more, I guess, more negative indicators than positive. If in someone's
Nice.
answer, I think generally speaking, most people tend to be good people, and we definitely like to hire good people at Expedia. But in general, if someone's answering, I'll think more about how they're answering a question in terms of, is this something we would want to bring in? So I guess
Mm,
a little bit of both.
that's a great segue into my next question. And I love the word that you use. So, what would you say is a green flag that signals culture fit?
Definitely just being warm. I feel like I can always tell almost right away if someone is going to make others around them feel comfortable or valued, especially with how they interact with me on the talent acquisition side of things. But if they're asking questions and listening, um, yeah.
What would you say is a red flag that signals culture risk?
Um, I can't like necessarily put a definitive factor on it, but I would say if someone seems to be very kind of less of like a servant leader mindset and more of like, how am I going to make impact for myself and my career versus how am I going to make impact on the organization or the goals of the business. And you see that a lot with people's examples that they'll share,
Mm,
especially if it's something where if they're leading a team, they'll speak more on the positive side. They'll speak more to the success of their team or the people around them and how they helped elevate and
nice.
lift those people up. Whereas someone that I maybe wouldn't be as inclined to move forward with might focus more on their own specific work and how that impacted them versus the business or the people.
How do you assess behavioral intelligence in the hiring process?
Yeah. I would say for myself, I like to ask a lot of open-ended questions to really gauge how someone's going to respond naturally based on just how they would in any other conversation without too much prompting on my end. The more open-ended I leave something, the more I find that people are really honest and authentic
Mhm.
with their answers. And usually that leads to them sharing almost more than what I was asking. So, in an example, I would say recently I was looking to hire a senior agile coach for our organization. And one of the things I was really looking for in those answers was someone's emphasis on listening and empathy.
Oh,
But I
okay.
didn't ask about listening and empathy. What I asked about was how would they get trust or build, establish buy in with people who are resistant to change. And so,
Nice.
based on how they answered that, I was able to really dig into those other areas that would you know, indicate like really strong EQ as well as IQ and how they would
Nice.
lead.
So I think you answered my next question. I was going to ask you if you could share an example of when behavioral intelligence made a significant difference in a hiring decision. So you
Yeah.
can use that one or you can give me another one.
Yeah. I mean, that one's recent, like the last couple weeks, but I
Okay.
think it actually did make a pretty big impact because I ended up, we had one manager hiring a global team, building it from the ground up, and recruiters and sourcers in every single region that we hire in. And because I was asking those questions kind of off the book, like I just sort of came up with them myself based on what I was looking for to support the manager's goals. He ended up actually having me lead a teach back to the rest of the
Nice.
sourcers working on those profiles because I was able to sort of articulate or ask to field or find out what some of those behavioral aspects were, things that you wouldn't necessarily see on someone's resume or in like a typical um, phone screen or something like that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time.